So the Archangel suggested that I do just a description that I gave to him on the phone earlier on this afternoon about the equation that I derived this very morning, April Fool's Day, 1st of the 4th, 23. And you can see it top left. I've written it as pi meters to the 4 over the second cubed, and then above to the power of the power there is a q with like a 2, and the q with a 2 is a quantum of energy, and it represents a 0. The 2 represents an area, and it represents mass energy. And it describes what mass energy is, and I wrote it down there so that you can keep reading this and look at what you're seeing with this as a potentially true. While I just explain what I wrote along the top, there are countless, infinite variations of what equals what in the reality cycle. And so I've just picked out some of the highlights there that I hope that physics will like, and that will give you a sense of how potentially earth-changing, no, not potentially, earth-changing this is. Because what it shows is in that first part of the equation, the God equation, you see mass energy in its proper place as the sun. And you can imagine sun rays beaming down from that sun, the energy, down to those other components. And what that is describing is a bending moment in pi. So meter 4 is the center of a mass that takes the bending moment. If you bent a steel beam, its center of rotation is somewhere inside. The center of that rotation is called a meter 4. It's a bending moment, and it describes merely a meter cubed and a potential distance that it could move, hence why it's a meter 4. So you're energizing the bending moment with the energy of S, of time, creating pi, the circle. And the circle is the 0 itself. So a bending moment. Just take it at that for a moment, a bending moment with energy. The next one, square root of -2, is what maths calls an imaginary number. It's not imaginary, it's real. So that the maths that's been built upon imaginary numbers, which is about analysis of waves, which is fantastically useful, shows that it's not imaginary at all, it's real. The minus that is there, because that's the vector, it means clockwise rotation, and it's why the universe has this right-hand twist, because clockwise rotation is the winning battle here. Because the square root of -2 is a hypotenuse of a triangle. Yeah, and the bending moment is the other two sides, the meter and the second. And there's bending, creating an arc of a circle, and a tension, like a bow. Can you imagine bring me my bow of burning gold? And the bow is the bending moment, and the straight line is the string, is the square root of -2, and the winner is clockwise, hence why it's negative. So you've got a bending moment creating a tension. Bending bow, tension in string. And there's a resultant of that. A winner. I said there's a winner clockwise. How far? 1/137th of an arc second. It's called alpha in physics, and at the moment it's got 137 and a bit. But the reason there's and a bit is because, as we're about to discover, everything is wrong. The balance of nature is wrong. The speed of light is too slow. Gravity is too high. The planet is spinning too slowly. So a lot of stuff comes out of this, potentially. So I'm claiming that the reduced h, Planck's constant, of 2 pi is the correct, real, capital R, value. And that the reason that it has no units for science at the moment is because you've cancelled the second, mistaking it for a time second. You missed it. So the units don't cancel, you end up with arc seconds. So that you've got a bending moment, a tension, creating a clockwise rotation in which, how far? 1/137th of an arc second, a tiny, 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 tiny amount. And that equals a force. You'll recognize there. A meters per second squared is a force. It's an acceleration. Force equals mass times acceleration. The force equals the acceleration acting on the mass. Forget it. The force is a meter per second squared. But you notice something above there. It's got the pi, the action pi. And the action pi is all the choices that we can make. And I want to talk about that. But it's the choices we make affect the energy that we make. And that affects the energy of the meters per second squared. And you'll recognize the units as the Newton and the same as gravity. And so here we are. We've derived gravity out of this as well. And then because of the action that the squares now cancel because of the chosen action, it's a power on the meter, so that power cancels with the power on the second, and that cancels down to a meter second, speed of light, so you call it, and I called it big C deliberately because it should be pi meters per second times 10 to the 8. Yeah, C. There it is, should be pi. So that, again, that's nice, isn't it? We've got something handy there built into that one equation. The resultant of the effect of gravity with bending moment, tension, resultant, gravity, velocity equals a number, 1 to the power of the Q again. Because the power of the Q is actually in that first equation. You can move the Q down in front of the pi, which is where it should be for physics to write it. But I wanted to leave it there because I wanted to show that it's the sun, the energy. And then let's have a look at that now. That's enough, isn't it? Because this is really the important bit for us as human beings. It tells us what our job is in life. A quantum of energy equals matter, or a meter. You can read it either way. It's potential difference creating stuff. And above that is the action pi inside the quanta. And so that's how we make the energy, by choosing the actions that we want to affect. We affect the energy that is in the M. And that affects look back up the top. Oh yeah, gravity, right. So gravity, the effect of gravity and meters per second are directly related to each other, and they're variable depending on the mass energy. And I said there, the matter to the power of conscious creation equals mass energy in grams. And that's the answer. That's E equals mc squared. But with the right perspective. So I'm hoping that you're going to find that that's useful and it's opening some doors. Certainly physicists should be absolutely bricking it right now, because I want to lay this on the table of Mr. Edward Witten, who's never won a Nobel Prize, never written anything of any note at all, but somehow seems to have sucked billions and billions and billions of pounds into his anal system. Yeah. So I challenge you, Witten, to lay your theory of everything on the table, your string theory. And let me worry you a little. It's not S over M, ever. So I hope that's helpful. Send me some questions. I'm going to do a really nice video about this, because I believe that when one person believes this is true, and their life changes forever, when the moment of enlightenment suddenly hits them. Is that you? Are you that person? Is it happening to you right now? Get ahead of the game. The train's rolling. Love rules. Do the work. Choose.